Hadith in Abu Dawood, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah." Dua is worship. Now, why did Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say dua is worship? You look at any worship we do, without dua there is no worship. Without dua there is no worship. Salah, we have got dua inside there. Right at the end of salah, Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathira. Or right at the end of salah, Rabbi ja'alni muqima salati, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, and so on. Inside the salah itself, there are several times when we are making a request to Allah Azza wa Jal. Sami Allahu liman hamida, meaning that Allah has accepted. We are asking Allah, Allah accept this dua, accept this salah of ours. If you look at fasting, you open the fast with a dua. You close the fast with a dua. And during the iftar time, just before the iftar time, you make dua. At suhoor time, you make dua. These are the attributes of fasting. You look at a person who's gone to Hajj. The whole of Hajj, in every single part he's going, he's making dua. You look at the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he just built the Kaaba. He just was building the Kaaba, or built the Kaaba. And as he had just finished it, he said, Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim. That dua is recorded in Surah Baqarah. You find the Anbiya, they are in need of Allah Azza wa Jal, they turn to Allah in dua. When they're in trouble, they turn to Allah for dua. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam said, Rabbi inni maghlubun fantasir. Oh Allah, I have been overcome, so I'm asking for your help. When they wanted to ask Allah, in fact, a beautiful one of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam is what? And many of us have forgotten this sunnah of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, which Allah taught us in the Quran, so that this may be alive until the Day of Judgment. When Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam made this dua, Rabbi inni maghlubun fantasir. Oh Allah, I am overcome by these people, so I'm asking for your help. He made a lengthy dua. And in that dua, what he did is, he made his talab, or what he was asking for, was right at the end. But before that, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam did one thing which me and you do as friends. You know, when you have a trouble, you sit with a friend and you say, did you hear what happened to me? And your friend says, what happened to you? You say, well, I went to work today, and you know that guy I told you about? Well, yeah. That guy today, Allahu Akbar, when I walked in, I got the dirty looks. And when I went in the office and I sat down, he was watching what time I had walked in, so he was going to grass me up to the boss. And I sat down and I started doing my work, then he was walking over nearby to look at me, to look over to see what work I was doing. Can you believe it? You know, this guy wants to kick me out of this job. You know, he wants to get rid of me. And did you hear what happened after that? What happens after that? He said, at lunchtime, the guy, when I left for lunch, he came to my desk to see how much work I had done. And blah, blah, blah. I'm just giving you an example. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, he does the same thing with Allah Azza wa Jal. How? He starts to ask Allah, he says to Allah, before he even says what kind of help he needs from Allah, he says, Rabbi inni da'utu qawmi laylan wa nahara. Oh Allah, I asked these people by night and by day. Oh Allah, did you see that I went to them by night time? Oh Allah, I went to them by daytime. And I said to them, I said these words, Istaghfiru rabbakum. I said to them that you should seek forgiveness from your Lord. Every time I asked them, oh Allah, they covered their faces and they put their fingers in their ears and they asarru wastakbaru istikbara. They were very stubborn and they become even more arrogant in their ways. Oh Allah, I called them in secrecy, sirran wa jahra. I called them in openness. Why did Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam have to say this to Allah Azza wa Jal that sees everything? Because Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu salam is seeing Allah as a wali, as a guardian. And Allahu waliyul ladina amanu, Allah is the guardian of those who believe in Him. And Allah is the close one and the master of those. So as a servant to a master, he is putting forth his way, just like two friends. We are two friends, we say, did you see that guy did that, did you see? And then that happened, and then that happened. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam is doing this. This is a wonderful way of relieving stress. You know, a lot of people who have stress, a lot of people who have problems, they often pick up the phone and they will say to their, whoever it is, did you hear what happened? Shall I tell you the latest of what's happening in my life? And then she says, yes. So you say, okay, get ready for episode number 42. This is what's happening in my life of EastEnders. Right? I'm in the middle of it. And can you believe this person did that, and that person did that, and I said this, and what do you advise me to do right now? Or did you hear what? And a whole part of the gossip is what actually happened. And a lot of us do this. You do it in the masjid when you come sit with people, you do it when you're outside the masjid, you do it when you see your friends outside. Women do it a lot of the times, when they see one another over the phone, whatever. A lot of that with their husbands as well, the husbands do it with their wives. But Allah Azza wa Jal is asking us one thing, which is what? You want to relieve your stress? Come and talk to me. Come and talk to me. Because I know not only your enemies, I know your whole history of your enemies. I am the one who created your enemies. I have the cells in my hands. I have the neurons in my hands. I have the breathing is in my hands. Their eating is in my hands. The risk is in my hands. The provision is in my hands. I am the provider. I am the Lord. I am the sustainer. And I can do what I want. I even know the entire future as well. Allahu Akbar. So you want to come and you want to talk to anyone to relieve your stress. Who better to relieve one's stress than to go to Allah Azza wa Jalla? And you just put your hands up. And this is one of the ways of getting stress relieved. Because you need to talk to someone. Or who better to talk to than Allah Azza wa Jalla? So Allah Azza wa Jalla, His messengers, as I'm saying, they used to talk to Him. And they used to say, this is what happened. And now Allah, I'm in this situation. So when we're in trouble, we take the examples of the Anbiya. When we need something extra, like Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam said, رَبَّنَا أَنزِلْ عَلَيْنَا مَائِدَةً مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. If you've got hope in something, you can make a dua for something extra that you don't even have. And it is out of our hope that we will receive that. Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, he made this dua, he said, Rabbi habli mulka la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di. Oh Allah, give me, oh Lord, grant me such a kingdom that no one after me will have. So we can make these du'as for extra things that we want to get. But one thing which is crucial is that one thing which is crucial is Allah's most beloved servants are the Anbiya. And out of all the servants, every single servant, Allah Azza wa Jal has described the whole scenario of how they make dua. He didn't just say the dua, He made the whole scenario. Subhanallah, because Allah loved it so much. Allah wanted to teach us what situations they make dua. So He talks about His rahmah, His mercy that He gave to His servant Zakaria alayhi salam. But to say all of that, He mentions the scenario. So He says the scenario is إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. This is my servant Zakaria, but this servant Zakaria, he's calling me نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. He's calling me long callings. Because nida, there's a difference between nida and dua. Dua is that you just call, you just say what you actually want, you ask what you want. Nida is when you do it with a slight, you do it by yearning. You have this yearning inside you, you have this cry inside the call. When you have a slight cry inside the call, it's nada, nida. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. He was calling me in the night time and He was calling me in secrecy. Allah mentioned another quality. Secretly He was calling me. He didn't want anyone in His whole time to know that He was calling me. But I loved His calling so much that I've revealed it in the Holy Quran, that until the Day of Judgment, the whole of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will get to know about this secret calling that my servant Zakaria alayhi salam used to call. Nida'an khafiyya, this secret calling, no one knows. Allah loves us so much that He mentioned it in the Quran. And He mentioned, He didn't have to say nida'an khafiyya. He didn't have to say this long, yearning, secret call of Zakaria alayhi salam. But these are the things He loves. So He said that. Then what did Allah say after that? إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا قَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي وَهَنَ الْعَظْمُ مِنِّي. Oh my Lord, my bones have become weak. My bones are very frail and they're weak. وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. My whole hair has inflamed in whiteness. My whole hair, all from one end to another end, is white. I've got not a single black hair on my head. My bones, they're weak, and I'm frail at this moment. وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. But even though this is my situation, I haven't lost the hope that you're going to answer my dua. I haven't lost that hope. Because an old man who's this old will never have the hope of having a child. But I, at this age, I still haven't lost the hope that you will give me a child. And he says what? After explaining his own situation, he says, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. He says after that, وَكَانَتِ امْرَأَتِي عَاقِرًا. He says, my wife, she's also barren. So she can't actually give birth to a child. وَقَدْ بَلَغْتُ مِنَ الْكِبَرِ عِتِيًّا. I've reached such an old age of life that, a man like me shouldn't really be here making dua. But you know what? I'm still going to make that dua to you. Allah loved all of this. He mentioned all of this. Why? Because Allah wanted to show us that, hope doesn't matter if you have 100% wall in front of you, you got nowhere out. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't see a dead end. There's no dead end with Allah. Allah can give whoever He wants to give. And this is the beginning of, Allah hasn't even mentioned His dua yet. He's mentioning His condition. Why does Allah do that? Because it's a massive lesson to us to understand. For dua, you don't need to see possibility, impossibility. You just look at me. If you want the impossible to become possible, I will do that for you. And I can do that. But I need your faith. Zakaria didn't do this on one night. He did this on many different nights. And it so happens that the whole context again is explained in Surah Maryam, how he used to come and see Maryam, and one day he comes and sees that she's got fruits of a different season inside her chamber. When the chamber was locked, the only person with the key was Zakaria alayhi salam. No one came in, no one went out. Maryam alayhi salam was inside, and he comes and he sees fruits of a different season with her. And he says what? قَالَ يَا مَرْيَمُ أَنَّى لَكِ هَذَا. Oh Maryam, how did you get this? And she says, قَالَتْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. It is only Allah. Allah gave me these fruits while I'm sitting here. I had no fruits. Allah gave it to you, and such fruits that you cannot even find in this whole country. They're out of the season. And when Zakaria saw that, he thought, this chamber, this place is Mubarak. This place is blessed. هُنَالِكَ دَعَى زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ. Why did Allah have to say هُنَالِكَ? Because Zakaria alayhi salam knew that this is a place of barakah. There are certain places that Allah has blessed. If you make dua, those blessed places, Allah will accept your dua. The Kaaba is blessed. Muzdalifah is blessed. You find Arafah is blessed on the day of Arafah. In front of the Hatim, that place Maqam Ibrahim is blessed. You find the day of Arafah itself across the world is blessed as a time. The masjid is blessed. The masjid is blessed. So the places where Allah Azza wa Jal accepts somebody, He gives a gift to someone, a miracle, if you make a dua there, then it will be accepted. That's why Allah said, هُنَالِكَ. In that place, دَعَى زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ. Zakaria salam started to do 2 rakats straight away, and in his dua, in his salah, he started to make dua. And straight away, Allah Azza wa Jal in his salah said, Ya Zakaria, inna nubashiruka bi ghulam. Oh Zakaria, and now I'm giving you good news of a child who is Yahya. Now why did Allah Azza wa Jal have to tell us the entire context of this? Why? Because every part of your dua, when you make dua, when I make dua, when I make it and I say, Oh Allah, Oh Allah, Oh Allah, and I repeat it 3 times, Allah loves that. That's why Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he made dua, كَانَ يَدْعُ ثَلَاثًا. He sometimes used to repeat it 3 times. Allah loves that. You repeating, Allah loves that. The fact that you are begging Allah, Allah loves that. فَأَلِحُّوا فِي الدُّعَاء. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in one hadith, he said, be like beggars in your dua, that you continuously ask and you ask and you ask again in your dua. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us he liked that. Even when a person, he's making dua, okay, he's making dua. Some of us, we make dua and we can't feel emotion. We can't feel emotion. So we make dua. So some of us might think, okay, I'm just going to make dua like this. I'm not emotional at all. And others want to try and cry, they can't cry, so they try and make a face like they want to cry. You know, this Allah loves. There's no tears, there's no emotion inside you. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَإِن لَمْ تَبْكُوا فَتَبَاكُوا. He said, if you cannot cry, then start to pretend to cry. Subhanallah. Start to pretend. Make a pretending face in front of Allah to cry. Allah loves that. That's why it's in the sunnah of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he's told his Sahaba and he's told us as well through them that you pretend to cry. It's not nifaq, it's not hypocrisy. It's that you wanted to cry, you couldn't cry, so you went halfway there. You start to make a face, however you can, to show Allah that if I could have cried, I would have loved to cry, but I couldn't cry, but here I am. I'm asking you. Here I am, I'm asking you. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has told all of this for a reason. Why? Because Allah Azza wa Jal, He likes it when we do this in front of Him. An angel asked Allah Azza wa Jal, according to one hadith, "Oh Allah, this servant of yours has asked you this thing again and again and again and again. Allah, you still haven't granted this person this thing. You still haven't granted this person this thing." Now imagine, it's been months you've been asking for one dua and you never got it. Your dua most likely is getting even more and more serious. And you're using all kind of words to ask Allah. What did Allah say to that angel? Allah Azza wa Jal said, "Oh my angel, yes, I know my servant has been asking me for such a long time. But you know, when he asks me in this manner and he prolongs his call towards me, I love it every time he gets up at this time of the day or this time of the 24 hours. I love that he calls me. And my angel, once I grant it to my servant is not going to be there anymore to ask me like this. And because I love this call of my servant, I am holding back giving it to my servant because his call is more beloved than the fact that I give him this thing. The fact that he's calling me, the fact that he cries to me every day, the fact that he shows me that he's in need of me every day, the fact that he shows me this yearning, this heart that he's got reaching out towards me, that Allah Azza wa Jal likes more than the fact that we would actually have this dua accepted and He gives us. Now some of us might think that my dua wasn't accepted. I made this dua, it wasn't accepted. Don't think in that manner, because Allah Azza wa Jal, He has, according to one hadith, this is Sahih hadith in Imam Ahmad's kitab. Bazar has related this, Abu Ya'la has related this, all of them with good chains. Hakim has also related this, and he has said Sahihul Isnad, this is Sahih hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, "Ma min muslimin yad'u bid'awa laysa fiha ithmun wa la qati'atu rahim illa a'tahu Allah biha ihda thalath." There is no Muslim that makes a dua, not a single Muslimah in the world, they make a dua to Allah Azza wa Jal in which there is no sin, and there is also nothing where they're asking Allah to break their ties. Allah doesn't like it when we make dua for a sinful thing or something which is haram for us. So as long as these things are not inside there, Allah Azza wa Jal will give them one of three. Imma an yu'ajjila lahu da'watan. Either Allah will straight away accept your dua and give you what you actually asked for. وَإِمَّا أَن يَدَّخِرَهَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. Or Allah Azza wa Jal will store it for the akhirah. So He didn't give it to you in this world, but Allah Azza wa Jal stored it as reward that you got in return of your dua for the akhirah. وَإِمَّا أَن يَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ مِنَ السُّوءِ مِثْلَهَا. Or Allah Azza wa Jal will not give you that thing you asked for, or He will give you something else in return. So you're asking Allah to save you from a calamity. He might not have saved you from that calamity, but He will save you from something which is similar to that. قَالُوا إِذَا نُكْثِرُ قَالَ اللَّهُ أَكْثَرُ. They said, Messenger of Allah, if this is the case, that Allah gives us one of these three things, then we're going to increase our du'as to Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in that case, Allah will increase the things that He will give you. Allah will increase the things that He's given you. Now imagine, this is one hadith. In another hadith, according to Hakim, the person, he will reach the akhirah. فإذا عجل للعبد دعاؤه في الدنيا ورأى ما ادخر لغيره في الجنة. When a person will come on the day of judgment and he's going to see that Allah accepted this dua for me, He accepted that dua, He gave me all of these different duas. And there's another person there whom Allah, He didn't accept his duas, many of his duas, but He gave him these things in Jannah in return. So he never got his duas answered, but he got something else in return in Jannah. When a person will see all those things that he got in Jannah for the du'as that weren't accepted in his lifetime, in return of those du'as that weren't accepted in his lifetime, this person will say, Ya laytani lam yu'ajjal li shay'in min du'a'i fi dunya. The person will say, if only all my du'as were rejected from the du'as that were made in the world and I got returned, in return of that I got something in Jannah. The person will wish that all of his du'as would have been rejected, none of them would have been accepted, because he knows today, on the day of Akhirah, he sees now that in return of the du'as that are not accepted, you get greater things in Jannah that you couldn't even get by doing your ibadah. So this person is even more, he wished that his du'as wouldn't have been accepted in dunya. You can imagine that we are those, of course in this world we want some of our, and many of our du'as, we want them to be accepted, but don't think that we are losers. We're never losers. A mu'min, a believer, never loses when he comes to Allah Azza wa Jal with the dua, as long as the dua hasn't got anything that is sinful inside. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal, His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to hadith in Hakim, Abu Dawud and Tirmidhi, both have also narrated this. They have said it's with a good chain. And Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban had narrated this. Ibn Hibban said that this is Sahih hadith, and so has Hakim done the same thing. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says about Allah, he says, Inna Allah hayyun kareem yastahi idha rafa'a al-abdu ilayhi yadayhi an yaruddahuma sifran kha'ibatayn. Allah Azza wa Jal finds it just like me and you, when a beggar comes to us and a beggar has been asking us, sometimes you feel like, how can I just let this guy go without anything in his hand? So sometimes you just take some pocket change or anything you can, you give it to the person so that he doesn't go away from you empty-handed. Allah Azza wa Jal is very noble, and Allah Azza wa Jal shows the same quality, that He is in a sense morally embarrassed. It's not because Allah Azza wa Jal needs to get embarrassed, but out of the fact that His servant has put his hands towards him, that Allah would send you away empty-handed without receiving anything from Him. Allah will do that. Allah Azza wa Jal is morally embarrassed, so He will make sure that you return with something. That is why when we make dua by raising our hands. And raising our hands, some people, it's not good to just close all the hands. Don't close all the hands for dua, because we are asking Allah to put something inside it. We are asking Allah, that's one of the adabs of dua. We ask now, it's good to keep the two hands close, and it's good to keep them like a beggar, that is close together, so that if the one you're begging from gives you something, it's going to go in your hand and it wouldn't basically drop inside. Yes, it's fine, it's jaiz, it's completely allowed for you to keep a gap in between, it's completely allowed, right? But the more of a begging situation a person is, the more better it is for you to, or more likely it is that your dua will get accepted. Some people, they make dua, they're like this. They got their hands right here. Now, how much of a beggar is that you've got your hands right next to your belly and you've got them tucked inside you and you're making dua? I mean, you don't have to put your hands up. But if you're going to put your hands up for a dua, it's better that you show that you're making dua and you're in a begging situation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had 3 different sunnahs. One was that he put his hands together and he would put them, he would bring them up to his chest level. His hands up to his chest level. Another one that he would put his hands together and he would move it up to his face level. Another one is his sunnah is that he would put both of his hands, his arms, he would stretch them up to the sky and he would put them way over his head. This is the third sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he was very desperate, he would do that. Another sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, you want to be in a begging situation, is that you make the dua inside your sujood. You make your dua inside the sujood. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِذَا فَزِعَهُ أَمْرُ, when he used to get something that would trouble him, he straight away would make 2 rakats salah. That would be 2 rakats specifically because he was terrified by something. And he would be terrified by something, he would make 2 rakats salah. This is sunnah, that is a forgotten sunnah. A lot of people, when they get terrified, they want to go and look for help with someone. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam straight away would look for help from Allah Azza wa Jal. And these 2 rakats, sometimes what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do is that he would prolong his sajda. And in his sajda, he would ask Allah Azza wa Jal to remove this trouble. Sometimes he would come inside the masjid and he would go straight into the sujood. Allahu Akbar, straight into sujood. This sujood was of different kinds. Sometimes it was sajda to shukr. Sometimes he would just thank Allah and go into sujood. And sometimes when he needed something, he would go into sujood as well. So if somebody wants to do that and revive that sunnah, you can do that as well. But if a person is doing a salah, then you cannot say anything but Arabic inside your salah. But if a person is doing a sajda on its own, just a sajda on its own, then you can make whichever language you want, you can make a dua in that. So please remember this, I'm not saying in any salah there is, whether it's 2 rakats, 4 rakats, whatever it is, you cannot make any dua except in Arabic. But if you're making a sajda on its own, so there's no salah, you didn't start off with a salah, you just went straight into sujood, in that you can make dua in any language you want. So if one of us wants to, we can make a dua inside the sujood, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam occurred to hadith in Bukhari, he said, فَقَمِنٌ أَن يُسْتَجَابُ لَكُمْ. He said that it's likely that your du'as will be accepted while you're actually in the sujood. Now, we're going to make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, in making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, there are certain adabs and etiquettes. There are certain adabs and there are certain etiquettes. And there are certain ways of unlocking the secrets of the unseen if you know how to do certain little things. One of the things I've just told you is making dua between Asr and Maghrib. Even on a normal day, it's good to make dua between Asr and Maghrib, that your dua gets accepted. On a Friday, it's even more close that your dua will be accepted. On this day, it's even more likely. So one of the things is to know the zaman, to know the time. Another one is to know the makan, the place. If you know the places where dua is accepted, it's likely that it will be accepted. Another one is if you give some sadaqah before you give your dua, make your dua. In a certain ahadith, it says that when you've given a sadaqah, then it is likely that your dua will be accepted. Another one is that you make istighfar. You start seeking forgiveness from Allah first, because according to our prior predecessors, they looked into the Quran and they found that istighfar, seeking forgiveness from Allah, making tawbah to Allah, these are 2 prerequisites to a dua being accepted. And they took from Surah Hud, the ayah number, if you look in Surah Hud, ayah number 10, or if you look in Surah Nuh, ayah number 11, so on, you will find that Allah Azza wa Jal, sorry, in Surah Hud, it's in a couple of different places. It's in in Surah Hud, it's right at the beginning of Surah Hud, and Surah Nuh, you'll find it part of the way inside. It says, وَأَنِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ يُمَتِّعُكُمْ مَتَاعًا حَسَنًا. In another part of Surah Hud, it says, يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. O my people, start to seek forgiveness from Allah. This is Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam saying it to his people. O my people, seek forgiveness from Allah. Tubu ilayhi, return back to Allah. Yursil as-samaa alaykum midrara. You know these skies that have stopped raining above you, they will start to rain once again onto you. The rains will open because of your istighfar. So you're asking for dua, you're asking Allah to, or you're asking your Lord for the rains to come. It will not happen until you made istighfar and you made tawbah. Sayyidina Ali al-Khawas, who was one of the great leading pious predecessors, he said that ما توقف عن أحد حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة إلا من تركه الاستغفار. He says, because people have left seeking forgiveness from Allah, this is one of the reasons why Allah has stopped giving them certain gifts that Allah was going to give to them. So if you want to release those gifts, one of the things is to seek forgiveness from Allah. So before you do your dua, start to say istighfar. Astaghfirullah, inna Allah ghafurur rahim. Astaghfirullah, inna Allah ghafurur rahim. Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. This particular istighfar, Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. There are certain ahadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he has said, there's a hadith in okay, there's different types of hadith. If I find that particular hadith, then I'll quote it to you. But this hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in Hakim, it is narrated up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man qala Allahumma maghfiratuk awsa'u min dhunubi wa rahmatuka arja 'indi min 'amali thalatha marrat ghafara Allahu lah." If a person says that Allahumma maghfiratuk, O Allah, your forgiveness, awsa' min dhunubi, is a lot more vast than the sins that I've committed. Wa rahmatuka arja 'indi, your mercy is more hopeful. I'm more hopeful of receiving your mercy than having hope of my actions saving me or gaining me anything. I'm more hopeful that I will get something through your mercy. If somebody says this dua 3 times, Allahumma maghfiratuka awsa' min dhunubi wa rahmatuka arja 'indi min 'amali, if somebody says that 3 times, then Allah would have forgiven that person. There's also in hadith that where a person makes 2 rakats specifically. This is a hadith in Abu Dawud and Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban in his Sahih collection. He has said, there's no servant of Allah, he has committed a sin. فَيُحْسِنُ الطُّهُورِ, he makes a good wudu, ثُمَّ يَقُومُ فَيُصَلِّي, then a person stands up and he makes 2 rakats. يصلي ركعتين ثم يستغفر الله, then after his 2 rakats he makes istighfar, he starts to seek forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jal. إِلَّا غُفِرَ لَهُ, except that Allah Azza wa Jal would have forgiven this person. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he quoted the verse from Surah Ali Imran, 135th verse, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا, those people who do some actions of obscenity and so on, أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم, or they've oppressed themselves, ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ, they remember Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal, He then forgives them. So this is a particular istighfar or method of istighfar to do. In the dua, if a person does that, where they say Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, the names of Allah, Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum, in the istighfar is very powerful to have those 2 names there, wa atubu ilayh at the end, Astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. And also when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard certain Sahaba, they making dua. One particular Sahabi, when he heard him making dua, and he started to say the words Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. When he started to say the words Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, or he said, for example, he heard one particular servant of Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram, O one of awe-inspiring qualities, wal Ikram, O one who is full of gifting his servants. He started saying these words, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard that, he said, Faqad istujiba lak fasal. Allah has now accepted your dua, now continue to ask from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Another person, he said, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed by Abu Ayyash and he was praying, he said, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi anna laka alhamd, la ilaha illa anta, ya mannan, ya badi'a as-samawati wal ard, ya dhal jalali wal ikram. This is a Sahih hadith in Ibn Hibban, also narrated in Abu Dawud and Nasai and so on, where this person said, Allahumma inni as'aluka, O Allah, I am asking you, bi anna laka alhamd, for you there is praise, la ilaha illa ant, there is no one except for yourself as a worthy of worship, ya mannan, one who gifts his servants one who gives his servant without his servant having to ask him, Ya Badi' as-samawati wal ard, originator of the heavens and the earth, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram. When he made this dua, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he commented on his dua. There's in one riwayah Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam heard, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. When he's heard this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Laqad sa'alta Allah bismihi al-a'zam. You have asked Allah with His greatest name, with His most greatest name. Alladhi idha du'iya bihi ajab. When Allah is asked with the words Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Allah does not refuse that dua.
وأكون للخير العميم مثالا.